Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. 3 Kingdoms. Soldier Immortal helps Liu Bei defend Xuzhou. Xuzhou travels through the late Han Dynasty and is rescued by Liu Bei by chance. As an unfamiliar black man, Xuzhou had no choice but to firmly grasp Liu Bei's long-term meal ticket and become his mastermind. Just looking around at the 4 enemies, the big shots from all sides are staring at the fat meat in Xuzhou. Is it lying flat and lying down, watching Xuzhou fall, then following Old Liu to travel around the world, and finally taking care of himself in Yizhou? Xuzhou was determined to help Liu Bei defend Xuzhou, root in the Central Plains, sweep away the Jiangnan region, and then head north to compete with Yuan Cao for the world. Erliu wants to steal home. There's no door. 6 counties in Jiangdong, 2 stunning Qiao, Ce and Zhou Yu, do you two also match? Jingyi has a fertile land of thousands of miles, how can Erliu occupy the thatched pit without defecating? Bring it to you, Yuan Shao. My advisors under my account are like clouds, they are not as good as a strategist in cloth clothes. Even if heaven were to fall, I would. Cao Cao. Xuzhou's military tactics are like ghosts and gods, like the reincarnation of a military immortal. He is truly a genius in the world. Liu Bei. If it weren't for the assistance of the Prime Minister, how could Bei revive the Great Han Dynasty? Please accept Bei's bow. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Is Liu Bei the person who saved me in Chapter 001? Seeking fresh flowers. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. In 196 AD. Liu Bei, the governor of Xuzhou, was ordered to suppress Yuan Shao and personally led a large army of 30,000 troops southward to confront Yuan Shao in Shui. In the northwest mountains and forests of Shui city, Xuzhou struggled to move forward on the rugged mountain road, 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. He was originally planning to go camping up the mountain, but unexpectedly, he crashed halfway. As soon as I opened my eyes, I lay in this deep mountain forest. There was no signal on the phone, and after waiting for half a day, there was no rescue. Xuzhou had no choice but to choose self-rescue and wanted to walk out of the mountains and forests. But this forest is really too big. After walking for a whole 7 days, exhausted to the point of exhaustion, there is still no sign of walking out. Can't I be trapped in these deep mountains and old forests as a wild man in this lifetime? Xuzhou was unwilling and took out his phone again. I was about to unlock the screen, but I didn't pay much attention and stepped on it empty. The whole person rolled down the slope. Shui City. In the inner courtyard of the county government, in a certain room, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Sun Qian were staring suspiciously at the unconscious young man who collapsed on the ground. Just yesterday, Liu Bei set up an ambush in the mountains and forests northwest of the city, hoping to ambush Yuan Shao's grain team. Yuan Shao fell short of a plan and ambushed a lonely person, but he managed to rescue this strange young man. Having neither hair nor beard, like a convicted criminal. But when it comes to its attire, although it looks bizarre, it feels neither silk nor linen to the touch, and it has never been seen that the material is fabric. This rare material of clothing is not something that a sinner can wear. Looking at the bedside table, there is a mountaineering bag, as well as strange things such as a phone, lighter, and a panoramic view. All of them are strange and peculiar things that have never been seen before. Gong Yu, you are knowledgeable and talented, can you recognize what these things are? Liu Bei pointed to the things on the desk and asked Sun Qian. This. Sun Qian poked his forehead with his fingertips and said with a look of shame. Forgive me for being ignorant, I haven't seen any of these things before. I haven't even seen a cultured person like Sun Qian, let alone a rough guy like him. Liu Bei carefully picked up his phone and looked back and forth. I saw that the front of this object is extremely smooth, and it can still reflect one's own face, much clearer than a copper mirror. I accidentally pressed the lock screen button. The originally dark screen of the phone suddenly lit up. Liu Bei was startled and almost slipped and fell. Guan Yu and Sun Qian quickly gathered around. What lights up on the screen is a screensaver, with a pattern depicting the night view of high-rise buildings in the city. These pavilions and towers are magnificent, with dazzling lights, like a dream. Is it possible that the painting depicts the dwelling places of immortals in the sky? Liu Bei exclaimed in amazement. Sun Qian and Guan Yu also stared straight, looking as if they had never seen the world before. As time passed, the screen went black instantly. Liu Bei hasn't had enough appreciation yet, so he hurriedly presses and presses. I accidentally pressed the lock button, and the screen lit up again. But this time the screensaver was changed. Changed to a swimsuit beauty scratching her head and posing. The three of them were momentarily stunned, and then they became embarrassed. Except for Guan Yu, who couldn't see any change in their faces, Liu Bei and Sun Qian's faces immediately turned red. "Brother, what do you think this is?" Guan Yu picked up a lighter to ease his embarrassment. Liu Bei quickly put down his phone and coughed as he looked at the object in Guan Yu's hand. "I saw a transparent container filled with something like water, and I don't know what its purpose is." Guan Yu played with it for a while and accidentally pressed the button. "Who?" A burst of flames ignited, almost igniting Guan Yu's beautiful beard. Guan Yu was startled and quickly threw the lighter onto the desk, hastily checking his beard. He cherished this beautiful beard the most in his life. If it were burned like this, it would be even worse. How could this object spew fire? Liu Bei took a deep breath and turned his surprised gaze to the young man on the bed. Why does this strange man of unknown origin have so many strange things? What exactly is he from? When Guan Yu saw that there was nothing wrong with his beautiful beard, he was alarmed and immediately became a little angry. He said in a low voice. "This person has an improper background, with a hint of evil cult emanating from all over his body. He is likely a yellow scarf demon. Brother, we need to be careful. This person may be a bit eccentric, but we cannot make hasty conclusions about it. Besides, not all the yellow turban thieves are necessarily villains, we cannot be preconceived. Let's wait until he wakes up before we talk." Liu Bei said a fair word without any prejudice. Brother said so, Guan Yu couldn't speak up anymore. A few people scrutinized the strange objects on the desk again. At this moment, Xuzhou, lying on the couch, made a movement, opened his eyes in a daze, and sat up. Looking around, it was no longer in the mountains and forests, but in an antique room. Three big men in front of him were staring at him with wide eyes. The three of them were all dressed in ancient costumes, with two dressed in military uniforms and the other dressed as a scholar. "Have you traveled through it?" Xuzhou almost blurted it out. "Sir, you finally woke up. How do you feel?" The white-faced general put down his phone and approached with a concerned expression on his face. Where am I? Mr. fell asleep in the mountains and forests yesterday. He must have fallen off the slope and passed out. I took the initiative to bring him back to Shui City. Xuzhou scratched the back of his head and listened to Liu Bei's words, vaguely recalling what happened yesterday. "At that time, I was about to look at my phone when I seemed to step into the air and roll down the mountain slope. Then my head hit something and I lost consciousness. Now it seems that he was saved by the white-faced general in front of him. Thank you very much for saving your life, General. May I know your name?" Xuzhou learned to bow in a dignified manner. To be able to speak in such a refined manner, one must be a scholar, at least a wealthy child. With surplus wealth at home, who would have enough to join the Yellow Turban Army and engage in the business of licking blood with a blade? Liu Bei felt a little relieved before bowing his hand and saying, "Liu Bei, have the courtesy name Xuanda." "Liu Bei." Xuzhou sat up straight. Shui City, Liu Bei, Xuanda the middle-aged general in front of me is actually the famous Emperor Zhao Liu Bei in history. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 002. Spoiler 1 Wave. Liu Bu steals home. Seeking fresh flowers. You are listening at novel full.audio. So, based on the timeline, it should be the first year of Jiangnan, which is 196 AD. In this year, Cao Cao will move Emperor Xian of Han to Shudou and begin to blackmail the emperor to order the feudal lords. Yuan Shao defeated Gongsun Zan in the Battle of Jiqiao, stabilized Yizhou, and began to counterattack Yizhou. Sun Ce basically pacified Jiangdong and prepared to advance westward to suppress Liu Bei. Liu Bei's words were just received from Xuzhou and he was confronting Yuan Shu and Shui, but he was about to be stolen by Lv Bu. Xuzhou's thoughts flew around, and his chaotic mind gradually became clear. There won't be any mistakes. Liu Bei in front of him should have just sat on the poker table and obtained the qualification to compete with big shots like Yuan Shao and Cao Cao in the world. Looking at the red-faced man next to him, it should be Guan Yu. As for the scholar, either Sun Qian or Jian Yong. With Liu Bei's current humble team, it is only these few people who can always follow the civil and military generals around him. Sir, do you know me, Liu Bei? Liu Bei was surprised by his reaction and became somewhat puzzled. Xuzhou calmed down and quickly got up to stay. Liu Shijun's name is as loud as thunder, how can I not know? I just didn't expect that I would be fortunate enough to be saved by the envoy. Liu Bei didn't think it was strange and asked with a smile, do you know your surname and name, sir? I, Xuzhou, have the courtesy name. A brief description of the character's scenery. Xuzhou had a sudden idea and took a character for himself. Characters are not created blindly, they are the interpretation of names. The book of Erliu goes. A philosopher is wise. The abbreviated characters have the meaning of wisdom and strategy, while the Xuzhou character Jing is abbreviated, and the name corresponds perfectly with the character. Upon hearing the inscription on his newspaper, Liu Bei became even more convinced that the person in front of him was not from a yellow scarf background. Forgive me for being blunt, why does the gentleman describe his attire like this, and how could he be alone in the mountains and wilderness? Liu Bei is a very straightforward man, asking his curiosity directly from the beginning. Xuzhou scratched his forehead. My attire is out of place with this era. Liu Bei must have also looked at things like backpacks and mobile phones. It is definitely unrealistic to say that Liu Bei does not doubt his identity. As a gangster, how can one create an identity so that Liu Bei can accept it? After turning his eyes a few times, Xuzhou said. I was adopted by my family teacher since I was young and practiced in the mountains. A few months ago, my master passed away and I was alone, so I had to decide to go down the mountain and enter the world. I'm not afraid to be laughed at by Liu Shijun. I haven't been down the mountain for over a decade, but I got lost. Unfortunately, I rolled down the mountain slope and fell into a coma yesterday. Fortunately, I was rescued by the envoy, otherwise I would have been eaten by wild beasts. After compiling the origin, Xuzhou stood up again and solemnly expressed his gratitude to Liu Bei for saving his life. The doubts in Liu Bei's eyes gradually dissipated. It seems that this young man is studying under an extraordinary expert. Since I am a reclusive expert, I cannot view it with common sense, and it is not surprising that my disciple is dressed in strange clothes. And those strange things are mostly relics left by that expert for his disciple. It's a pity that there are high-level hermits like Lingsher in the world who I couldn't meet. After finishing this battle and repelling Yuan Shu, I will personally go to pay my respects to the Lingsher. Liu Bei sighed deeply and had a regretful expression on his face. This statement also alerted Xuzhou. Xuzhou is highly likely to have already fallen, and Liu Bei will soon fall into the lowest point of his life. The territory was looted, tens of thousands of troops fell apart, and they were impoverished to the point where their soldiers had to eat each other. Being in Liu Bei's army, wouldn't one also suffer along with him? Upon realizing this, Xuzhou tentatively asked. Liu, may I ask if Ce is still in your hands? Liu Bei was taken aback and said with suspicion. Of course, Ce is still in reserve. Why do you ask so, sir? Xuzhou breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said. If it's still good, then please hurry and lead your army back to Ce. Once this statement is made. Not only Liu Bei, but also Guan Yu and Sun Qian were stunned, their eyes puzzled. Liu Bei then asked. Sir, why did you say this? Xuzhou's sword eyebrows furrowed slightly and he said in a deep voice. Because LV is about to launch a surprise attack on Ce. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was taken aback. Liu Bei urgently asked. How can you conclude, sir, that LV will launch a surprise attack on Ce? Looking at Liu Bei, who was full of doubts, Xuzhou's historical memories surged in his heart. At this moment, Liu Bei can be said to be the most brilliant stage of the first half of his life. As a plain county magistrate, he leapt to become the governor of a state and obtained a ticket to compete in the world. From then on, he obtained the qualification to compete with big shots such as Cao Cao, Yuan Shao, LV Yuan Shu, and Sun Tzu. However, glory is just a flash in the pan. Cao Cao coerced the emperor to order the feudal lords, and in the name of the court, ordered Liu Bei to suppress Yuan Shu. Liu Bei had no choice but to lead his army to the south in order to uphold the righteousness of supporting the Han Dynasty and dispel Yuan Shu's coveted interests in Xuzhou. But the result was that Liu Bei, an immature wolf, took advantage of the situation and stole the old nest. From a state shepherd, he fell into a homeless dog, only in a blink of an eye. If it weren't for Yizhou pouring out all his family wealth to support Liu Bei's comeback, he might have been trapped in a corner of Haishi and have no chance of turning over. The darkest and most desperate moment of Liu Bei's life was right in front of him. The kindness of a drop of water should be repaid by a gushing spring. Liu Bei saved his own life, and a slight reminder to help him avoid the loss of Xuzhou can also be considered a form of gratitude. Besides, I was in the army of Liu Bei, and the morale of the army in Xuzhou was greatly disrupted. Perhaps I would also be implicated and die in the chaotic army. In public and private, he has no reason to stay out of it. At this moment, the envoy is far away in Shui, and the troops in Shepi city are empty. This is a divine opportunity. With Liu Bei's ambition, he will definitely take the opportunity to launch a surprise attack on Shepi and take Xuzhou into his pocket. He once stole Cao Cao's Yenzhou, but now it's just a repeat of the old trick. After hearing Xuzhou's explanation, Liu Bei gave a slight chill. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 003. Mr. Su is an expert, seeking freshness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, a proud expression appeared on Guan Yu's face, and he snorted coldly. Those three family servants' repeated lack of trust makes it possible for them to ambush me in Xuzhou. But Shepi is guarded by my third brother, and there are nearly 4,000 soldiers and horses, but it's not that the troops are empty. Even if Liu Bei sneaks an attack, how can he succeed? Liu Bei's face softened slightly. He was not completely unsuspecting of Liu Bei, otherwise he wouldn't have left 4,000 soldiers and horses for Shepi. There are also 1,000 elite Danyang soldiers among them. With such a military configuration and Zhang Fei's talents, as Guan Yu said, it should be easy to prevent LV Bei's surprise attack. Liu Bei looked at Xuzhou and saw what he said. The Danyang soldiers were not entirely convinced of the envoy, and their leader Cao Bao and General Zhang had frequent conflicts. I expect General Zhang will use drunkenness to whip Cao Bao to vent his anger. Cao Leopard is LV Bu's father.in.law, and he is not angry in his heart. He will secretly unite with LV Bu and release him into the city, both inside and outside. Su Zhejian couldn't persuade Liu Bei, so he further undermined the situation. Liu Bei was taken aback. This young man claims to live in seclusion, but actually knows the relationship between Danyang's soldier and him like the back of his hand. Its prediction is even more specific to the point where Zhang Fei will get drunk and whip Cao Bao. It's too mysterious, isn't it? Liu Bei looked at Guan Yu and Sun Qian with disbelief in his eyes. However, Guan Yu's face darkened. Mr. Su, you must have underestimated my younger brother Ida too much. How important it is to guard Shepi. Even if he can't stand Cao Bao anymore, how could he go so far as to whip him? The third younger brother was looked down upon, and Guan Yu defended him against injustice. Su Zhe knew that he couldn't convince them for a moment. The ancients were not fools, just a few sensational words were believed to be true. Not to mention being a vassal at the level of Liu Bei. In terms of intelligence and political skills, they may be even more inexperienced than those of Cao Cao and Yuan Shao, but they are definitely far beyond the average person. To gain Liu Bei's trust, one can only speak with facts. Su Zhe said lightly. Whether I believe or not, please send someone back to Shepi to investigate and find out. After some consideration, Liu Bei immediately ordered Sun Qian to arrange for someone to go to Pai to see if there was any incident of Zhang Fei whipping Cao Bao. At this moment, Su Zhe's stomach began to growl. I haven't eaten anything for a whole day and a half from yesterday until now, and now I'm so hungry that my chest is pressing against my back. Su Zhe smiled awkwardly and said. Lu Shijun, I'm still hungry here. Can you manage to eat? Liu Bei was taken aback for a moment, then burst into laughter and ordered his soldiers to serve him with wine and meat. Su Zhe didn't care about his appearance, so he wolfed down in front of Liu Bei and others. Liu Bei didn't disturb and retreated with Guan Yu. Close the door backwards. Guan Yu reminded with a suspicious expression on his face. Brother, this Su Zhe is really strange. My younger brother is afraid that he is trying to make things mysterious and has ulterior motives. We need to be careful. Liu Bei gave a faint smile. Yun Chang's words are too serious. Although this person's words and actions may seem a bit strange, they don't seem to be harboring evil intentions. After a moment of silence, Guan Yu asked again. If the messenger brings back the news and Ida does not whip Cao Bao, how do the elder brother plan to deal with Su Zhe? After thinking for a moment, Liu Bei brushed his hand and said. Even if his calculation is incorrect, at least it reminds us, it may not necessarily mean he has bad intentions. When the time comes, give him some gold and silver and invite him to leave Shui. Guan Yu sighed. My elder brother always belongs to Taihe and Quanghe, treating others with a gentleman's heart. It should be noted that not everyone in this world is a gentleman. Faced with his younger brother's advice, Liu Bei simply smiled and turned around to leave. Inside the door. Su Zhe was holding a chicken leg in his hand and leaned over the door to listen. He could probably hear the conversation between those two brothers clearly. Lu Xuande. The hesitation in Su Zhe's eyes gradually disappeared and he became resolute. He has decided that Liu Bei will be his long-term meal ticket. Liu Bei is not perfect, but he has nothing to say about his courtiers. Huang Quan was forced to surrender to Wei, and Liu Bei treated his family well. Mi Fang's brother. In.Law surrendered to Wu, causing the fall of Jingzhou and the death of Guan Yu, which can be said to have committed a heinous crime. However, Liu Bei still did not provoke the Mi family and treated Mi Zhu with courtesy and importance. Assist Liu Bei, at least you won't worry about accompanying him like a tiger, can you please feel at ease? As for some people claiming that Liu Bei is a hypocrite, the so-called benevolence and righteousness are all faked, which is a bit too harsh on Liu Bei. As the saying goes, no matter what you do, no one is perfect in the world. Whether he pretends to be benevolent or not, as long as he can pretend for a lifetime, it is true benevolence and righteousness. Of course, the first half of Liu Bei's life was full of ups and downs, and he had to endure a lot of hardships and take many risks to assist him. This is also a fact. Xuzhou also wanted to go and join Cao Cao. But the problem is, objective conditions do not allow it. At present, this chaotic and unfamiliar stranger from a different world, how can he guarantee to walk to Yizhou alive and seek refuge with Cao Cao? Even if you walk to Yizhou alive, how can you guarantee to see Cao Cao? Even if I see Cao Cao, how can I guarantee that he will treat you like Liu Bei? Aren't you afraid that Cao Cao will treat you like a yellow scarf demon and directly strike you? Who will we talk to then? So since I was lucky enough to meet Liu Bei and happened to be mistaken by him for a master, why not cherish the opportunity and embrace Liu Bei's thigh? However, one thing also acknowledges that assisting Liu Bei will have to endure a lot of hardships. Liu Bei wanted to assist, but he didn't want to suffer this hardship. The key is whether we can prevent LV Bu from sneaking into Xiapi and help Liu Bei protect Xuzhou. If Xuzhou is preserved, Liu Bei won't have to wander around and rely on others everywhere. Based on Xuzhou, there is great potential to compete with Yuan Cao in the north and plan for Yangzhou in the south. Let's eat until we're full first. Xuzhou wolfed down chicken legs in his left hand and lamb chops in his right hand. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 004. I got my meal ticket, but I want to eat big. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. 5 days later. Inside the mansion, Liu Bei and Guan Yu were pointing at the map, discussing how to deal with Yuan Shu. Footsteps sounded, and Sun Qian hurriedly rushed in. Master, there's news from Xiapi. A few days ago, General Zhang indeed whipped Cao Bao while being drunk. Sun Qian gasped for breath and called out. Liu Bei's expression changed as he snatched the silk book and carefully examined it. White paper and black text, written clearly. Liu Bei's hand trembled slightly and exclaimed in amazement. Ida really whipped Cao Bao, that Mr. Su was right. Guan Yu was busy taking the silk book and carefully reading it word by word. His expression gradually became excited, and even a hint of shame flashed in his eyes. It seems that my foolish younger brother is being careless. Mr. Su is really a master. Liu Bei once again snatched the silk book and kept flipping through it, his expression changing from astonishment to some kind of joy. I come from a humble background, like the famous literati of Xuanyuchen Palace, who all disdained to condescend to assist. Since the suppression of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, there has never been a truly resourceful person around to guide and strategize for oneself. Even if we now hold the position of governor, this situation has not changed much. For example, Chen Deng, although cunning, always had reservations about him. Now, finally encountering Xuzhou, such a cunning expert who is willing to give advice, how could he not secretly rejoice? Brother, Mr. Su has a clever plan. If he can assist him, his great wish of helping the Han family will surely come true. Guan Yu understood Liu Bei the most and expressed his feelings. Liu Bei couldn't conceal his joy on his face and sighed with a smile. The heavens have eyes, and finally have bestowed upon me Liu Bei a high-ranking scholar who can guide me through the maze. But Guan Yu calmed down first and said. As Mr. Su said, Liu Bu will definitely launch a surprise attack on Xiapi and seize Xuzhou from me in the future. Brother, should we immediately withdraw our troops and rush back to Xuzhou to deal with those 3 family slaves? Liu Bei felt a chill behind his back, and his emotions immediately returned to normal. After a moment of contemplation, Liu Baiting stood up. Since Mr. Na Su saw through Liu Bu's plot, he should naturally seek his advice on how to respond to this matter. Yun Chang, Gong Yu, come with me quickly to meet Mr. Su. Liu Bei immediately stood up and left.
Guan Yu and Sun Qian followed closely behind. The three main officials arrived at the courtyard where Xuzhou lived. As soon as they stepped into the courtyard, they were stunned. This young expert is slowly swallowing and gesturing something. It seemed like punching, but it was soft and weak, slowly and strangely moving. Lu Shijun has arrived. Xuzhou glanced at Liu Bei, then withdrew his gesture and approached with a smile. Liu Bei asked curiously. I wonder what Mr. Su was just doing. Just now, I was practicing Tai Chi and exercising my muscles and bones. Xuzhou's casual answer made Liu Bei and the three of them feel new and couldn't help but look at each other. Tai Chi. Unprecedented boxing techniques. Extraordinary experts are exceptional individuals in terms of their ability to move their muscles and bones. Liu, if Shi's guess is correct, there should be news from Xiapi. Xuzhou brewed a cup of tea for Liu Bei while asking. Liu Bei trembled and showed respect on his face. He quickly arched his hand. Mr. Su is truly a clever strategist. Just now, news has been transmitted from Xiapi that my younger brother Ida was indeed drunk and whipped Cao Bao. Xuzhou breathed a sigh of relief. Lao Lu has obtained this long-term meal ticket. The next step is how to turn plain soup into a seafood feast. If Cao Bao is humiliated, he will definitely secretly contact LV Bu. LV Bu should also attack Xiapi quickly. Xuzhou took a sip of tea, but now he's not in a hurry. Liu Bei asked. Be prepared to take in LV Bu. Mr. Su is sure that LV Bu will repay his kindness and stab Bei in the back. Xuzhou let out a light sigh, knowing that he still had fantasies about LV Bu. No wonder Liu Bei comes from a grassroots background and still retains a strong sense of chivalry. What rangers regard as their destiny is the word righteousness. But the rules of the high-end game are deceitful and unscrupulous. Liu Bei suffered from ups and downs for half of his life, losing at the starting line compared to Yuan Shao and Cao Cao, lacking in political immersion and experience. So he couldn't accept why LV Bu was ungrateful and stabbed himself in the back. Dong Zhuo commanded a force of 100,000 and held the emperor hostage to command the feudal lords. He was once the strongest in the world. Yuan Shao, the fourth generation and three nobles, was famous all over the world. With a shout of arms, heroes from all directions came to bid for him. With the strength of these two people, it is difficult to control Liu Bu. One was killed by Erliu Bu, while the other had to drive Erliu Bu away, afraid of backlash. The envoy asked himself, how are you doing compared to Dong Zhuo and the two of them? How could you imagine driving Liu Bu? Xuzhou asked a meaningful question and looked at Liu Bei. Liu Bei shivered and his eyes suddenly became enlightened. And Xuzhou's words happened to touch upon Guan Yu's heart. Guan Yu sighed and said. Brother, Mr. Su is right. My younger brother also reminded my elder brother earlier that LV Bu is feeding an unfamiliar wolf, and my elder brother cannot win over him. Shame appeared on Liu Bei's face, and he sneered bitterly. Mr. Su's words awakened Bei, who was beyond his control and had the delusion of controlling Liu Bu. It's ridiculous, it's ridiculous. Xuzhou added a sip of tea to Liu Bei and comforted him, saying. Lu Shijun doesn't need to blame himself. His generosity, benevolence, and righteousness are actually his strengths. If it weren't for this, how could generals like General Guan and General Zhang, who are world.renowned tigers, have vowed to follow and never give up? Although this statement was heartfelt, it was also a slap in the face that flattered the three brothers. People, who doesn't like to listen to good words? Guan Yu stroked his beautiful beard and nodded slightly, thinking to himself that Mr. Su indeed had a keen eye. The new book set sail, and there aren't many Zhuo Lu Wen. Brothers who like it, give a flower and cast a review vote. Thank you. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 005. Two birds with one stone, let's squat on a wave of Liu Bei. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Liu Bei's mood was also much better, so he quickly added a sip of tea to Xuzhou and inquired. I plan to immediately withdraw my troops and return to Shepi to prevent Liu Bei's surprise attack. What do you think, sir? Xuzhou took a sip of tea and asked in response. If Liu Shijun withdraws his troops and returns to the north, Shui falls, and Yuan Shao's army takes advantage of the situation to advance north and directly approach Shepi, how do you plan to respond? This. Liu Bei's words are blocked. Obviously Yuan Shao did not consider this aspect too much. Xuzhou then asked again. If Yuan Shao advances towards Shepi from the south and Liu Bei's surprise attack fails, Mingzhu leads his army to attack from the north. At that time, Yuan and Liu teamed up to launch a pincer attack from the north and south. How did the envoy plan to respond? Liu Bei shivered and a layer of cold sweat soaked from his forehead. Inside, there are 2 or 5 cubs like Cao Cao, a fierce wolf like Liu Bei to the north, and a giant crocodile like Yuan Shao to the south. Thinking about this situation makes my scalp tingle. Liu Bei hurriedly stood up and solemnly bowed his hand. If you have any shortcomings, please advise me on how to deal with this dilemma of internal and external troubles. Xuzhou quickly stood up and helped Liu Bei, laughing self-deprecatingly. The envoy's words were heavy. He saved Su and also took care of the food. It's not appropriate to give him advice, but it's still incumbent on him to do a little bit. The two of them sat down again. Su Zhiqing coughed twice and asked in reverse. I don't have much high opinion either, but I have a plan of 1 stone, 3 birds. I don't know if the envoy is willing to listen. Liu Bei's eyes lit up and he hurriedly said. What is the strategy of 1 stone, 3 birds? Please clarify, sir. Xuzhou sipped his tea and said calmly and slowly. Je believed that the envoy should remain as General Yuan Cao and continue to sit in Shui under the banner of the envoy. The envoy led a team of elite soldiers to secretly return to Shepi by taking a grain boat and secretly returning to the Sisui River at night, ambushing outside the city. Please hold your ground and wait for Cao Cao to open the city gate and let Liu Bei sneak into the city. Then, strike Liu Bei from behind. In this way, we can not only defend Shui, but also inflict heavy damage on Liu Bei, and effectively eliminate internal bandits such as Cao Cao. This is the strategy of 1 stone, 3 birds. After hearing these words, Liu Bei's eyes suddenly brightened. Next to him, Guan Yu's eyes flickered brightly and he couldn't help but nod slightly. The 2 brothers looked at each other, their eyes indicating agreement. Mr. Su, not only is he a clever strategist, but he is also so resourceful. You are really a master. What a 1 stone 3 bird plan. Mr. Su is truly extraordinary in intelligence and is ready to be taught. Liu Bei's face was clouded with darkness, and he applauded the situation. Just a casual remark, I flatter you. After laughing and mocking himself, Xuzhou reminded him again. Since Generalita has already whipped Cao Cao, Liu Bei may attack at any time, perhaps he is already on the way at this moment. The matter should not be delayed. Liu Shijun still needs to leave as soon as possible. Liu Bei's nerves became tense, and he arched his hand sincerely, saying. I will lead my army back to Shepi tonight. Please accompany Mr. Su, so that I can consult with you at any time. This is a subtle expression, wanting to invite him to become a strategist. There is no reason not to have a meal ticket when you have it. Xuzhou smiled and said. As long as Ambassador Liu takes care of the food, it's okay for Je to follow you on a trip. Liu Bei was taken aback for a moment, then laughed heartily and said. Of course I'll take care of Mr. B's food. Don't worry, Mr. B won't let him go hungry. Guan Yu, who has always been meticulous in his laughter, couldn't help but burst out laughing. So. That night,
Liu Bei stayed with Guan Yu and led more than 20,000 main troops to continue guarding Shui under his banner and resisting Yuan Shao. Liu Bei personally led 5,000 troops and horses, taking advantage of the grain ship, heading north along the night of the Water Star in Xuzhou. 3 days later, the grain ship arrived at the west crossing of Shepi City. In order to prevent the leakage of wind, Liu Bei strictly ordered 5,000 soldiers to hide in the cabin and show their heads without leaving the cabin. At the same time, the Marquis of Refusal was sent northward to scout the movements of the Liu Bu army. 10 miles northwest of Shepi. The setting sun is like blood, and dust and mist are rolling. 6,000 steps are riding along the main road, rolling southward all the way. A general in front of the team, sitting on the crotch of a red rabbit and holding a square-drawn halberd, is 8 feet long and majestic. The general's solemn gaze remained fixed on the front. Until the majestic outline of Shepi City caught the eye, the corners of the general's mouth slightly raised, evoking a cold smile. Marquis 1, we have arrived at Shepi City. Zhang Liao, who was following beside him, loudly reminded him. Erliu put away a cold smile at the corner of his mouth and shouted sternly. The whole army accelerated their march and headed straight towards the west gate of Shepi City. The Marquis Yuan Cao led his troops from Danyang to open the city and welcome them. The generals take orders. However, Zhang Liao hesitated and said. Marquis 1, our light army is launching a surprise attack on Shepi. If Liu Bei sees through Marquis Wen's intentions and orders Zhang Fei to be on guard beforehand, what should he do? Liu Bei doesn't have this ability. Erliu's tone was resolute, and contempt appeared between his eyebrows, disdainful as he said. Under Liu Bei's command, Zhang Fei and Guan Yu were brave but not strategic. Sun Qian, Jian Yong, and others were all mediocre individuals, but Chen Dinpa had some intelligence and strategy that could rival Chen Gongtai. Unfortunately, this person is in Guangling. Who in the city of Shepi can discern the intention of this marquis? Zhang Liao remained silent, and the concerns in his eyes were dispelled. The surprise attack on Shepi was a masterpiece of Chen Gong, with Cao Cao as his insider. Such a seamless plan, as analyzed by Lv, he really couldn't think of any strategist under Liu Bei who could see through it. Liu Bei is just a weaver of mats and shoes, and Xuzhou is a waste in his hands. This time, the heavens are going to give Xuzhou to me, and I am determined to win it. Erliu's proud expression burned wildly, and Fang Tianhua's halberd pointed south. Within half an hour, clear the troops loyal to Liu Bei. Tonight, I will drink a celebratory wine with you in the state capital. The red rabbit horse roared out. 6,000 LV army infantry and cavalry, rolling forward. Running all the way, before sunset, the army approached the west gate of Shepi. On the city tower, a wolf smoke signal rises into the sky. Afterwards, the suspension bridge fell and the city gate opened wide. Erliu was overjoyed and laughed wildly, saying. The Father.In.Law indeed opened the city gate as promised, and the entire army followed my lord into Shepi. The horn sounded. Lv urged the red rabbit horse to rush into the west gate of Shepi like a flowing fire. 6,000 rubles flooded into the city like a tide. Within the city of Shepi, there was an immediate chaos, with the sound of killing echoing everywhere. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 006 LV Boo's Confused Circle. The Great Ear Thief Flies Back. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xuzhou ferry in the west of the city. At the bow of the ship. Xuzhou was holding a telescope and staring intently towards the direction of Shepi City. Liu Bei secretly looked at Xuzhou, looking at the telescope in his hand, but his eyes flickered with suspicion. Shepi City is at least 2 to 3 miles away from here, so far away that the naked eye can only see the outline. What strange object is in Mr. Su's hand? Can you help him see the lower part of the pie? Lu Shijun, LV has already entered the west gate. We can now take action. Xuzhou's words interrupted Liu Bei's speculation. Liu Bei's heart trembled and he quickly looked towards the west gate of Xiapi, blurry but unable to see anything clearly. How can Mr. Su conclude that LV has already taken action, as the Marquis has not yet reported? Liu Bei looked at Xuzhou with half confidence and half doubt. Lu Shijun looks at it himself. Xuzhou stuffed the telescope into Liu Bei's hand. Liu Bei held it stiffly in his hand, hesitated for a moment, and then learned from Xuzhou's style by sticking the telescope in front of his eyes. It doesn't matter if you don't look, I was startled at first glance. Through these telescopes, one can see the Shiman of Shepi clearly and clearly. The army of Liu Bu is indeed rushing into the city. This thing is as magical as a 1,000-mile eye, it is truly amazing. Liu Bei looked back and forth at the telescope in his hand, his mouth full of wonder. Xuzhou said lightly. This item is a relic of our ancestor, named a telescope. Don't be surprised. Liu Bei naturally believed it to be true and thought to himself that Mr. Su, the master, was truly an immortal beyond the world. He could have such divine power with just a random relic. Xuzhou casually retrieved the telescope and reminded with a smile. Erliu has entered the jar, Lu Shijun. It's time to catch turtles in the jar. Liu Bei's thoughts returned to his eyes, and his astonishment subsided. A solemn killing intent rose in his eyes. With a double-edged sword in hand and a finger pointing towards the shore. The whole army obeyed the order and immediately landed on the shore, heading straight towards the west gate of Sheping, killing LV. The horn sounded on the Surabaya River. The soldiers of Xuzhou, hidden in the cabin, immediately appeared and rushed down the ship. Liu Bei rode his horse and wielded his sword, leading 5,000 soldiers from Xuzhou and rolling away. Xuzhou leaned back on the lounge chair, poured a cup of tea, held a telescope in hand, and leisurely enjoyed the battle. Xiapi City. The sound of killing shook the sky, and beacon smoke rose everywhere. On the upper floor of Shiman City, the Erliu flag has been raised. Cao Bao led 1,000 Danyang soldiers to open the west gate as promised and let the army of LV enter the city. The two armies converged and headed straight towards the state capital along the main street. After hearing the news, Zhang Fei could only immediately mobilize people and horses to resist. Both LV troops and the Danyang soldiers were elite, while Zhang Fei's Xuzhou soldiers hastily fought and were no match, retreating step by step. On the main street, Liu Bu waved the Fangtian painted halberd, inspiring his soldiers to move forward bravely. The prefectural yamen is already in front of us. As long as we take the prefectural government, we will have the city of Shepi. The state government has taken over, and the rest of the counties and states such as Pengcheng, Guanling, and Langyi can be declared. Cao Cao, when this marquis takes Xuzhou, we will decide between us. Erliu's horizontal halberd immediately lifted, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. The overall situation seems to have been decided. Beside me. Cao Bao smiled and said, filial and virtuous son.In.Law, congratulations on becoming the Lord of Xuzhou. Liu Bu laughed heartily. Duh. General Cao Xing came forward with a panicked expression, interrupting the laughter of the two sons-in-law. Report to Marquis 1, there is a battalion of Xuzhou soldiers outside the west gate. Our army was caught off guard and couldn't resist. Cao Xing was panting and trembling to report the military situation. Erliu's laughter abruptly stopped, his face suddenly changed, and he looked urgently at Cao Bao. There is actually an army outside of Shepi city, why don't you report it early? Cao Bao's forehead was sweating profusely, and he looked bewildered as he said. All the troops and horses in Shepi are stationed inside the city, and there is no large army stationed outside the city. Erliu frowned and looked confused. All the troops and horses are stationed outside the city, and where did the sudden attack troops and horses emerge from outside the city? Did it come out of thin air? Go to the west gate. Without careful consideration, Liu Bei turned his horse and headed straight towards the west gate. By the time we rushed all the way to the west gate, it was already too late. The hundreds of soldiers and horses guarding the west gate have long been scattered and are now collapsing along the way. On the city tower, the Liu flag has been raised again. Thousands of soldiers from Xuzhou are constantly pouring in from outside the city gates. Just looking at this formation, there are at least 5,000 to 6,000 people. Liu Bei suddenly grabbed the red rabbit horse and looked at the lost west gate in confusion and astonishment. The troops left by Liu Bei for Zhang Fei and Xie only add up to over 5,000 people. Even if Zhang Fei received rumors and secretly deployed troops outside the city without telling Cao Cao beforehand, it would be impossible to mobilize so many troops. It's Liu Bei, it's that big-eared thief. Cao Cao changed color in shock and pointed at the city tower in terror, shouting loudly. Erliu Bei's figure shook and he quickly fixed his gaze on the city tower. A middle-aged military general stands tall at the city head, commanding and dispatching the soldiers of Xuzhou under the city. That person is Liu Bei. Liu Bei, who was clearly commanding a large army, was confronting Yuan Shao in Shui. How could he suddenly kill back to Xie? Liu Bei's face seemed to be haunted. Could it be General Qiao who leaked the news that Liu Xuande led his army to rush back to Xie overnight? Zhang Liao speculated like this. Liu Bei suddenly turned around and glared angrily at Cao Cao. Zhuo Luwen has seen fewer people, please ask all the ancestors to cast some flower evaluation votes and provide some data support. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 007. The Prophet. Under Liu Bei's command. You are listening at novel full.audio. Impossible. Cao Cao suddenly shook his head. After Zhang Fei whipped me that day, I finally contacted you, my son.In.Law. It has only been 7 days since then. Even if I leaked the news, Liu Bei couldn't have come back so quickly. Besides, with Zhang Fei's violent temper, if he found out that I was going to offer the city to your virtuous son.In.Law, how could he remain indifferent and have already killed me? This statement was impeccable, causing Liu Bei's anger to slightly ease. Zhang Liao's eyes rolled and he said. If it's not a leak, then there's only one explanation. Liu Bei had advisors under his command, who calculated that Marquis Yuan would launch a surprise attack on Xie. That's why Liu Bei had enough time to come back in time with the Starry Night journey. This is the only reasonable explanation. Upon hearing this, Liu Bei exclaimed in shock. Under Liu Bei's command, there are such wise and resourceful people. Cao Cao shook his head again. Liu Bei was accompanied only by Sun Qian and Jian Yong, and their intelligence and strategy were mediocre, making it impossible for them to have such a divine calculation. Liu Bei's eyes filled with confusion as he questioned. Not Sun Qian and Jian Yong, but who else did they see through Qinggongtai's clever plan? Cao Cao's words are blocked. As an old man in Xuzhou, who had some intelligence in the state, he could count it even with his fingers. Apart from Jiangdong, who was far away in Guangling, he couldn't help but think of breaking his scalp. No one else had such an unpredictable divine calculation wisdom. For a moment, Liu Bei and the others fell into confusion and surprise. At this point, the Xuzhou soldiers who entered the west gate began to rush towards the city's hinterland. The rear road was ambushed, and under the enemy's attack, the Liu army scattered one after another. The situation in Xie city has now reversed. Wen Ho. The situation has passed, and our plan to launch a surprise attack on Xie city has failed. Please order Marquis Wen to quickly break out of the city through other gates and withdraw from Xiaopei.
Zhang Liao's expression was gloomy, and he arched his hand to plead. Lu Bu clenched his fists with a clattering sound, and his eyes were filled with resentment and unwillingness. The duck that reaches its beak flies like this, losing and gaining is the most uncomfortable thing. Xuzhou did not succeed in stealing, but also suffered losses in troops and generals. Stealing chickens did not succeed and eroded the rice. If Liu Bei retaliates and leads his army directly towards Xiaopei, what will he use to resist? Not willing to accept it, just hesitating. The sound of killing from behind shook the sky. Erliu Meng turned around and saw the soldiers attacking the state capital scattered in disarray. It must have been Zhang Fei who learned of Liu Bei's return and led his army to launch a counterattack. Wen Ho, withdraw. Zhang Liao once again strongly advised. Erliu let out a helpless sigh and his tightly clenched fist relaxed as he spoke. Make sure to investigate for me clearly, who helped Liu Der see through my surprise attack plan. After Erliu gritted his teeth to deliver the order, the horse's head turned and shouted loudly. Retreat, the whole army retreats from the north gate and heads towards Xiaopei. Thousands of remnants of the LV army were defeated and hastily left the north gate. After a moment, Liu Bei's reinforcements and Zhang Fei's Xuzhou garrison successfully joined forces. Seeing Zhang Fei from Liu Bei, I couldn't help but be surprised and delighted, and excitedly asked. How did my elder brother know that those 3 family members' slaves had secretly attacked Xiaopei and led their army to arrive in time? Ida, what you don't know is that my brother met an expert in Shui. Liu Bei had a mysterious smile on his face. Expert. Zhang Fei felt his head in confusion. Liu Bei lowered his voice and said. This expert's surname is Su Mingzhi, with the courtesy name Jing Lu. It was precisely because of this person's clever calculation that Liu Bu would launch a surprise attack on Xiaopei. Zhang Fei's eyes lit up. What is the origin of Su Zhe? How could he be so knowledgeable? Liu Bei stroked his short beard and said. Mr. Su studied under an extraordinary immortal master, and his background is mysterious and unpredictable. He not only calculated that LV Bu would sneak attack on Xiaopei, but also calculated that Ida, you would be drunk and whip Cao Bao. That's why he calculated that Cao Bao would collude with LV Bu to cause trouble. Zhang Fei wiped the sweat off his forehead and took a cold breath. Mohan felt ashamed for almost making a big mistake by whipping Cao Bao while drunk. Taking a cold breath, I was surprised that Mr. Su was far away in Shui and could calculate what he had done in Xiaopei. Does this person have 2,000-mile eyes? Brother, where is Mr. Su sacred? I need to take a good look. Zhang Fei's curiosity filled him up and he was a bit impatient. Liu Bei chuckled and said. Later, you will meet with Mr. Su on your own. Now, let's take advantage of the victory to pursue him. The 2 brothers led the victorious Xuzhou soldiers to relentlessly pursue the retreating enemy. At present, the sound of killing in Pai City is deafening, but on the ferry at Sisui, there is snoring like thunder. Suzhou still held the telescope in his hand, and the person was already lying in the lounge chair snoring. Push and push. I will board the ship with great enthusiasm. My lord has recaptured Xiaopei, dealt a heavy blow to LV Bu, and captured Cao Bao alive. The last General Chen arrived, and upon the order of the Lord, I have come to invite Mr. Su to come to the city for a meeting. This throat startled Su Zhe and he fell completely asleep in an instant. So fast. Su Zhe yawned and picked up his telescope to take a look. Sure enough, he saw that the battle in Xiaopei City had ended. Qin Dao bowed with respect and said. The Lord has arranged a mansion for your husband and said that it is getting late. Please rest well before entering the city and consult with him tomorrow. Su Zhe thought to himself that Old Liu was considerate and thoughtful, so he got off the boat and got on the car, and entered the city under the protection of Qin Dao and his entourage. Cars and horses enter the city from the west gate and walk slowly along the main street. Su Zhe lifted the car curtain and looked around,
seeing corpses everywhere and teams of soldiers clearing the battlefield. Those corpses, in addition to the attire of soldiers, were also worn by many civilians. It is believed that there was a great chaos in the city, and the rebels seized the opportunity to plunder, causing many people's homes to be destroyed. In times of chaos, human life is like grass. Fortunately, I chose Liu Bei. If I insist on joining Cao Cao, I might have died halfway through. Xuzhou secretly felt grateful that his choice was the right one. While sighing and lamenting, a woman with an arrow on her back and covered in blood stumbled out of the alley and fell in front of the carriage. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 008. Is a beauty. Pick up a Maid for free. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stop. Xuzhou stopped Qindao. Perhaps it was the instinct of the medical profession that prevented him from turning a blind eye to death. After personally getting off the car to check, it was confirmed that the girl was still saved, so he called for her to be lifted onto the carriage. In the evening, the carriage entered the mansion. Qindao said that this courtyard was specially built by Tao Qian to express gratitude to Liu Bei for saving Xuzhou. It is magnificent and second only to the state capital. Xuzhou had to admit that Liu Bei, the boss, treated him sincerely and well. Without time to have dinner, he ordered the girl to be carried into the room and placed on the bed. Perhaps due to occupational diseases, even when camping in the mountains, I carried a first aid kit with me and took it out of my backpack. There is everything in the box, including scissors, tweezers, needles, and thread. A serious illness cannot be cured, and emergency treatment of external injuries is more than enough. After being thoroughly disinfected, Xuzhou picked up the guy, rolled up his sleeves, and stood in front of the girl. Although the girl was stained with blood, she could vaguely distinguish her beautiful features. This will be left for future generations, with a proper celebrity face. After taking a few more glances, Xuzhou put away his distractions and focused on treating her injury. First, use scissors to cut open the fabric around the girl's wound and carefully tear it to both sides. The pink shoulders stained with blood are imprinted in the eyes. Xuzhou's heart trembled slightly. The doctor is also human, let alone a hot and energetic young man. It is hypocritical to say that when facing patients, regardless of gender, beauty, or ugliness, one remains unmoved. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and silently think to yourself. It's just a stinky skin bag. Then he opened his eyes, with no second thought, and focused on treating the wound for the young girl. The arrow was pulled out, the wound was sewn up, and the medicine was also applied. Half an hour later, Xuzhou breathed a sigh of relief and took a clean piece of clothing to cover the girl. I haven't practiced for a long time, and my waist doesn't even adapt. Xuzhou self-deprecatingly sat down with his waist supported, poured himself a cup of tea, and finally managed to catch his breath. Unconsciously, the girl on the bed woke up in a secluded state. Seeing her disheveled appearance, the girl immediately became nervous and a faint expression appeared on her face. When she saw a man sitting by the bed again, the girl was even more embarrassed and exclaimed in surprise. She quickly grabbed onto her clothes and wrapped her body around them. Awakening so quickly, it seems that the injury is not serious. Xuzhou saw that she was awake, so he put down his teacup and stood up to approach. The girl hurriedly shrank towards the corner of the wall, trembling and asking. "Who are you? What have you done to me?" Xuzhou was taken aback. "Good guy, this is Old Heart treating him like a donkey liver and lung, and this girl treating him like a disciple who takes advantage of others. Miss, I thought too much. It was you who collapsed under my car, so I had to take you back and help you deal with the arrow injury." Xuzhou could also understand her concerns, so he candidly explained the origin and disappearance of the pulse. The girl calmed down and her lost memories gradually surfaced. After looking at the blood arrow on the ground and examining her body, it was finally confirmed that the man in front of her was only treating her injury. "Thank you very much for your help, young master. May I ask your name and surname?" Although the girl's face was still red, the hostility in her eyes had transformed into gratitude. Xuzhou said lightly, Xuzhou, dare you ask the girl's name?" "My name is Mi." The girl blurted out, but hesitated for a moment before saying, "Just call me Xiaohuan, young master." Xuzhou asked again, "Miss Xiaohuan, where is your home?" "Your parents are safe, and I will send someone to take you back." Xiaohuan hesitated for a moment before sighing. "My parents passed away many years ago, and there were only 2 older brothers in the family. However, they were chased and scattered by the rebels, and I don't know if they were alive or dead." Xuzhou let out a light sigh. It seemed that he was also a pitiful person. Looking at this small ring dressed in cloth, it should be the daughter of an ordinary family, with no father, no mother, and separated brothers. "We've saved everything, we can't just send her away like this, leaving her alone as an injured girl. Let's just wander the streets like this. This girl looks pleasing to the eye. She's single and lacks someone to take care of her daily life, so why not?" After a moment of contemplation, Xuzhou said, "I don't think you have a place to go either. If you don't mind, just stay with me and become a maid. After you find your family, if you want to leave, I won't keep you. What do you think?" After hesitating for a moment, Xiaohuan whispered, "Thank you very much for taking me in, young master. Huaner is willing to stay." Xuzhou reminded her to take a good rest and then stood up to leave. Xiaohuan watched him leave and only breathed a sigh of relief when the door closed. "There is great chaos in the city, and I don't know how the situation is. I have been injured again, so going out will be more ominous than good. This young master Su has saved my life. He looks like a good person. I might as well hide next to him and see the situation before proceeding." Xiaohuan's thoughts flipped and gradually became fixed. But a suspicious expression gradually appeared in her bright eyes, murmuring, "This young master Su has a dignified appearance, a graceful demeanor, and such an exquisite residence. He must be the son of a wealthy family. But why can't I remember, there is such a number 1 figure in the city of Shepi." Xiaohuan muttered to himself, but suddenly remembered something. Although he was trying to save me, when he drew an arrow to treat my wound, wouldn't he even show me my body? At this thought, Xiaohuan's body trembled, and a layer of blush immediately appeared on his face. A look of embarrassment surged in his eyes. "Seeking flowers and evaluation votes for support, the data is a bit bleak, Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 009 Liu Bei. May Mr. Bei be appointed as a military advisor and assist. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. To the east of Shepi City, Mi Prefecture. Mi Zhu stood on the steps with her hands down, watching the servants clean up the mess. The Mi family is one of the 3 richest people in the world, and many people are envious of the wealth of the Mi family, which can rival the wealth of the enemy country. A rebellion broke out in the city, and many Danyang soldiers took advantage of the situation to break into the Mi family. They killed anyone they saw and robbed everything they saw, causing a complete uproar in the Mi family. Mi Zhu fled and sought refuge with her tribe in time, and only then managed to escape the disaster. Now that the rebellion has been quelled, the Mi brothers are able to return to their residence and clean up the mess left by the rebels after looting. Footsteps rang out, and my younger brother Mi Fong hurried over. "Brother, I have searched all the streets inside and outside the mansion, as well as nearby, but I haven't found my little sister," Mi Fong said with a serious expression on her face. Mi Zhu frowned. At that time, the rebellion was hasty, and his siblings changed into civilian clothes and took refuge hastily. However, on the way, they were caught up and scattered by the rebels. His brothers are safe and sound, but his sister is nowhere to be found. After a moment of silence, Yizhou sighed. No matter how many people we send, we must find our little sister. We must live to see people, and we must die to see corpses. Mi Fang gave a cold breath. The meaning of listening to the older brother's words is to suspect that the younger sister may have been in trouble. Cao Bao, this dog thief who eats from the inside out, if it weren't for him colluding with LV to launch a surprise attack, how could I? Mi Fang gritted her teeth and her eyes were blazing, but she couldn't bear to continue. Yizhou sighed and said. LV is unpredictable and ambitious. Even without Cao Bao as an insider, he will eventually turn against the Lord. Mi Fang was lost in thought and suddenly seemed to think of something, so she asked. I heard that the Lord met a master in Huainan, who calculated that LV was going to launch a surprise attack on Xiapi. That's why the Lord timely led his army back and dealt a heavy blow to Liu Bei. Have you ever heard of this, brother? Yizhou nodded slightly. This matter is not unfounded, as I have heard of it. I heard that this person's name is Xuzhou, and he is an extraordinary expert who lives in seclusion in the mountains. He was accidentally saved by the Lord. That's why he took the initiative to guide the Lord. Mi Fang's face showed a strange expression and she quickly asked again. What is the origin of this extraordinary expert surnamed Su, who has such a clever plan? Shui is also part of our Xuzhou territory. I don't know how many times I have been to Xuzhou as a merchant. How come I have never heard of such a prominent figure? Yizhou stroked her short beard and sighed. Since you are a reclusive expert, it's not surprising that I haven't heard of you. Tomorrow the Lord's Guild will convene a meeting for us, and we should be able to see this expert by then. A hint of anticipation appeared between Mi Fang's eyebrows. The next day, in the main hall of the state capital, Liu Bei sat high in the upper position. Zhang Fei, Yizhou, Mi Fang and other generals and officials gathered together. Mr. Su is here. Outside the hall, the high singing of the guards resounded. Everyone immediately straightened up and looked out the door in unison. Xuzhou, dressed in a green shirt, walked confidently into the hall under the gaze of everyone. Zhang Fei and others immediately widened their eyes. Mr. Su is quite handsome and has an extraordinary appearance. It's just that it doesn't leave any hair or beard, it's really weird and tight. He is a hermit expert, so naturally he is different from us ordinary people. Yizhou thought to herself. Mr. Su. Liu Bei stood up and stepped down, personally welcoming Xuzhou in and politely helping him into his seat. This kind of respect and enthusiasm made Xuzhou feel a bit embarrassed. Then Liu Bei straightened his clothes and bowed solemnly to Xuzhou. If it weren't for Mr. Su's guidance, Xia Pai would have been stolen by LV, and Bei would have lost Xuzhou in pain. Sir, please be prepared and pay your respects. Xuzhou quickly stood up and helped Liu Bei, pretending to be afraid and saying. Lu Shijun's words are too heavy. He has shown me a life-saving kindness, and I am just showing gratitude in return. You are the governor of a state, and Su cannot afford this great gift. On the side, Yizhou couldn't help but nod slightly and secretly approve. Having made such great achievements, there is no intention of arrogance or self-reliance, and indeed there is a hermit's indifferent attitude towards fame and fortune. Liu Bei was just lifted up and immediately bowed again. Having the heart to support the Han Dynasty, but with mediocre talent and powerless heart. Fortunately, with the blessing of heaven, I met Mr. Su, a cunning strategist. I want to worship Mr. Bei as a military advisor, assist him in supporting the country, and rebuild the Great Han Dynasty. Please agree, sir. Everyone was shocked. Liu Bei is going to worship Xuzhou as his strategist. Yizhou read countless people and could see that this young hermit was extraordinary. Liu Bei wanted to rely on his intelligence and strategy, and he could not help but worship him as a strategist. Zhang Fei furrowed his brow. Surnamed Su is just a young boy.
Even if he has some intelligence, big brother, you don't need to praise him to the sky. You can just worship him as a military strategist, right? Just Liu Bei spoke up, and he didn't want to have any more objections, so he could only mutter privately. This Ce is just an idle person in the mountains and fields. He is too young and lacks knowledge. I'm afraid he won't be able to handle this important task. Xuzhou definitely wanted Lao Lu's long-term meal ticket, but this modest and evasive transition still had to go. Upon seeing Xuzhou's resignation, Liu Bei suddenly became anxious and eagerly begged repeatedly. After the 3 requests and 3 resignations, Xuzhou learned from Old Liu to tidy up his clothes and bow. Thanks to Ambassador Liu's appreciation, I should do my best to assist you in achieving great success. Liu Beichang breathed a sigh of relief, his face lit up with joy, and he burst out laughing. Bring me some wine. Today, I will drink 1,000 cups of wine with Master Jinglu, never getting drunk. Serve the wine. Liu Bei personally poured a cup for Xuzhou, and the two drank it all in one gulp, looking at each other and laughing. Then Yizhou, Sun Qian, and others took turns toasting Xuzhou and paying respects to this new military commander. Zhang Fei, however, had a drooping face and casually offered a toast. Xuzhou knew that Zhang Sanyi was dissatisfied with him and only pretended to ignore him. I have drunk alcohol before. Liu Bei's face returned to normal and he asked. Jinglu, the rebellion in Shepi has been quelled, Liu Bu has been defeated, and Cao Bao has been captured. The military strategist thinks, what should we do next? Zhang Fei looked up at Xuzhou, wanting to see what extraordinary insights this young new military commander could have. For today's plan, my lord needs to do 2 things. Xuzhou put down his wine glass and calmly raised 2 fingers. The first thing is to execute Cao Bao. The second thing is to beat the water dog in pain, send troops to Xiaopei, and defeat LV Bu. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 010. Lao Lu, Ren-E is a double-edged sword. You are listening at novel full.audio. Kill Cao Bao. Liu Bei frowned slightly, and his eyes showed hesitation. Xuzhou knew he couldn't take action. Old Liu, benevolence and righteousness are true, but this kind of benevolence and righteousness is a double-edged sword. The advantage goes without saying, helping Lao Lu recruit a group of loyal believers. It's still the kind of sacrificing one's life to a company. The disadvantage is that they lack sufficient deterrence against their subordinates, making them easily dare to defect and surrender to the enemy. Anyway, Liu Bei, you are lenient and benevolent. If I betrayed you, wouldn't you hold me accountable? The first thing Xuzhou did to assist Liu Bei was to reform him and not let his benevolence and righteousness harm him. A truly qualified leader must combine kindness and authority, combining iron blood and benevolence and righteousness. Je knew that the Lord had always been lenient towards his subordinates, so he couldn't bear to kill Cao Bao. But Cao Bao is rebelling, intending to collude with LV Bu to attack Xuzhou and kill the Lord. If such a person is not killed, what is the authority of the Lord? Under the command of Lord Jisher, not everyone wants to try the law and betray him whenever there is a chance. Anyway, even if they fail, the Lord won't kill them. The cost of rebellion is about 0. How can a team like this, with people's hearts full of luck and no respect for the Lord, help the Han family and pacify the world for the Lord? Slaying Qiao leopard is to uphold the public authority of the Lord and cut off the luck in their hearts. This statement plunged Liu Bei into silence. But Zhang Fei became increasingly excited as he listened, unable to resist clapping the table and praising. Soviet division, what you said is too right for my taste. Cao Bao and his gang of dogs should be killed. Even if they rebel, they won't be killed. Who will still obey you, brother, in the future? Liu Bei clenched his fists tightly, and his hesitant gaze gradually gave rise to a murderous intent. After a moment of contemplation, Liu Bei took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. As the military advisor said, pass the order and execute Cao Bao. Xuzhou breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that as a military strategist, my words still carry weight. It was not easy for Lao Lu to take the step of killing and establishing power. Brother, the second thing the military master said is fine with me. Those 3 servants of the family's surnames suffered losses and were defeated. We should take advantage of the victory to pursue, defeat Xiao Pei, and kill that dog thief. Zhang Fei also agreed with Xuzhou's second point. He seemed to have taken a liking to this young military officer, and the more he realized Xuzhou's appetite for him. Erliu broke his promise and betrayed his righteousness, so he should take action against him. But if my army takes Xiaopei and Yuan Shu takes advantage of the situation to attack Shui, I'm afraid that Yuan Chang won't be able to resist. Liu Bei also intended to attack Liu Bu, but was also wary of Yuan Shu. After all, that Yuan family tycoon, sitting in the Huainan and Jiangdong regions, has even surpassed Yuan Shao in terms of strength on the surface. Yuan Shu, he's just a paper tiger, just looking at bluff. Zhe has a plan, but Yuan Shu has no time to come and attack. The Lord can focus on attacking Liu Bu. Xuzhou took a sip of tea and a hint of eerie expression flashed across his eyebrows. Liu Bei was secretly speechless. In his eyes, Yuan Shu has always been a ferocious image of a huge crocodile. Who would have thought that Xuzhou saw it as a paper tiger, seemingly ignoring it? Is it a bit too arrogant? Liu Bei dared not be careless and had to ask. I don't know what the strategist has up to, but I'm willing to hear more about it. Zhang Fei, Mi Zhu, and others also raised their ears. Xuzhou slowly stood up and came to the map, holding a teacup and gesturing. In name, Yuan Shu held the entire Yangzhou, but in reality, he only controlled Huainan, and his control over Jiangdong still required a false hand to Sun Ce and his Sun family. That Sun Ce is known as the Little Overlord and has always had ambition, so naturally he is not willing to be under the influence of the long Yuan Shu. Now that his wings are full, he is gradually showing a trend of supporting troops and becoming independent, which can be seen by Yuan Shu. What we need to do is send our troops to Huainan, spreading rumors everywhere, claiming that Sun Ce will declare himself a hero and lead his army to cross the river to launch a surprise attack on Sichuan. Yuan Shu has already become suspicious of Sun Ce. Now that he hears these rumors, how dare he turn a blind eye and attack me with all his might in Xuzhou? With a casual remark, Xuzhou offered a plan. Liu Bei suddenly became enlightened and praised. Master Jinglu, this is a plan to sow discord between Yuan Shu and Sun Ce. This tactic of discord is really clever. Before Xuzhou could finish speaking, the teacup pointed towards Guangling County again. The Qin family is a century-old prominent family in Xuzhou, with a profound heritage. Qin Qian was originally a prime minister, but was repeatedly attacked by Yuan Shu and eventually had to resign and return to his hometown. The Qin family and Yuan Shu thus formed a Liang family. The Lord can declare Qin Deng, the son of Qin Yu, as the governor of Guangling and order him to attack Zhejiang from the east, threatening Yuan Shu's flank. According to the philosopher, Qin Deng will definitely mobilize the strength of the Qin family and do his best to fight against Yuan Shu. In this way, Sun Ce from Yuan Shu's south wanted to rebel, while Qin Deng's Guangling soldiers attacked from the east, making it even more powerless to attack the Lord. The Lord can free up his hands and concentrate his troops to attack Xiaopei in the north, eliminating the hidden danger of Lv Bu's cancer in one fell swoop. Liu Bei's veins bulged slightly on his face, and he stood up and came to the map, his gaze wandering between the 9 rivers in Guangling. Firstly, it took advantage of Sun Ce's ambition, and now it also takes advantage of the enmity between the Qin family and Yuan Shu. Unworthy of one soldier and one soldier, just use your mouth to retreat tens of thousands of powerful soldiers from Yuan Shu.
His ability to grasp people's hearts is truly beyond people's reach. Liu Bei stroked his short beard and nodded incessantly, admiring in his heart. Zhang Fei also turned around and slapped Xuzhou on the shoulder. Okay, Su Jun, sure, these two moves are quite insidious. Alright, I don't have anything to say now. I'll just give you 2 words, fu. Xuzhou's body was delicate, and he almost didn't slap her apart. He couldn't help but grin bitterly. What does it mean to be cunning enough? Are you praising me or scolding me? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.